All right, perspectives, part 2, application. Now we got to apply the perspectives that we came up with in part 1. So, what are we doing here? One of the perspectives that we came up with was looking at things through a microscope. You can look at anything through a microscope. Well, if you cut it up small enough, right? You can look at anything through a microscope. So now we need to figure out, what does this mean if we, broaden this into an actual perspective? It could mean looking exclusively at tiny details. Okay, well, that's a little obvious, but we're just building a perspective right now. We're going to apply it later. So you are the type of person who only looks at the tiniest of details. All right. So this is becoming now who you are. This is who you are. You lose the forest for the trees on purpose. This is what you do on purpose. So you're not looking at the forest. You're looking at each individual tree. Or you forget the trees. You're looking at each individual leaf. Or forget the leaves. You're looking at each individual vein on each individual leaf. Right. So you're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, looking at the tiny details. It doesn't have to be science related, but this is kind of like an idea for you, right? So, losing the forest for the trees on purpose. This is who you are. So you have to make it good. Okay, you can't be like, okay, yeah, this is the perspective is that that you pay so much attention to tiny details that you miss everything that's important, and you never pay attention to big stuff, and then you end up like sad and unhappy and alone. Well, okay, don't do that, because that's not what we're going for. And you're not going to write a college essay about being sad and unhappy and alone, because they won't let you in, and that would be sad, and then you would be unhappy. Ahaha. Okay. All right, but this isn't exciting yet. What are we going to do next? Now we got to add in a big topic. You can type in list topics into your channel. And you can get all sorts of things, patience and perseverance and empowerment we have here. So I picked empowerment, and we're going to combine that with looking at things through a microscope, so our big perspective. But we are not going to talk about how education or freedom make people feel empowered. Okay, we're not going to do the obvious things. That's not what we're going to do. And anyway, education and freedom are big, huge things. But remember, our perspective is very tiny. Our perspective is super small, okay? So I actually took, kind of this idea of the microscope, and I went with, so we are, in this case I am, we are going to talk about how power is like a tiny microbe waiting to grow like crazy. You just need a catalyst. Okay, this is pretty sciencey, right? I went with this kind of a science theme because they were talking about microscope and all that kind of stuff. But now we're going to think of power as a physically small thing. This is a little bit more of a literal interpretation of this kind of mindset, but anything is totally okay. Everything is game. It just has to be interesting, right? So let's read. All right. He faltered and froze. The moment when the ocean of your life crashes down upon you is hard for anyone, and these were no weak waves. I grabbed his forearm, joining more than just hands, joining more than just our present moments. My power seeped through to him and settled in like so much benign bacteria. Then the power colony grew. We knew we would get through independently or together because we had created all the power anyone would need simply by giving it freely. All right, what is this about? It doesn't really make any difference. You will notice that I made this about a small moment, okay? So he faltered and froze like half a second. This is describing that half second, right? Grabbed his forearm, so, kind of like a holy hand sort of a thing. That's going to be maybe 1 or 2 more seconds. And then all the rest of it is just a discussion of those 2 seconds. So this comes out to a total of 2.5 seconds in all of these sentences. That's all that has transpired, right? So I've got my, small task or small moment, single moment thing going on over here. It's got a little bit of a sciencey stuff, right? I brought in some like ocean metaphor, so now we've got, even more science. If you wanted to go with more of a historical thing, you're more into history, maybe you're more into technology, you can totally come at this with, different metaphors, different everything, right? You can do it all sorts of different ways. You would probably treat the entire thing differently. But this can be kind of applied to anything, right? I mean, you learn all sorts of lessons here. The biggest lesson being that, you shouldn't hoard all of your power because you'll lose it, right? So if you give it away, then Not give up your power, right? So not losing power, but like giving it in a sharing kind of a sense makes the power grow or whatever. That's kind of the idea over here, like so much benign bacteria, right? You could apply this to some kind of an essay about, a thing that you learned or a fundamental shift in perspective, right? I used to think that I had to, sort of gather up all of my power in order to be strong, and this is what I thought it meant to be strong. And then I realized that actually being strong just means, like giving strength away or whatever, right? You could use strength instead of power. It doesn't really matter what words you use, as long as it makes sense, obviously, and it's unexpected. So this is just one idea. Let's practice.